Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Do you know the text number? Does anyone know the text number? That says it's from Tuesday. Okay. 627. Okay, the bookmark is there. Prashanta manasam hyenam. This is chapter 6, text 27. Prashanta manasam hyenam yoginam sukham uttamam upaiti shanta rajasam brahmabhutam akalmasham. The yogi whose mind is fixed on me verily attains the highest happiness. By virtue of his identity with Brahman, he is liberated, his mind is peaceful, his passions are quieted, and he is freed from sin. Yunjan evam sadatmanam yogi vigata kalmasaha sukhena brahmasam sparsham atyantam sukham ashnute. Steady in the self, being freed from all material contamination, the yogi achieves the highest perfectional stage of happiness in touch with the supreme consciousness. Sarvabhutastam atmanam sarvabhutani chatmani ikshate yogi yukta atma sarvatra samadarshanaha. A true yogi observes me in all beings, and also sees every being in me. Indeed, the self-realized man sees me everywhere. Mam pashyati sarvatram sarvam cha mai pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami sacha me na pranashyati. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. Sarvabhuta stitam yo mam bhajatyaikat Bhajatyekatvam astitah sarvata vartamanapi sayogi mai vartate. The yogi who knows that I and the supersoul within all creatures are one, worships me and remains always in me in all circumstances. Atmopamyena sarvatra samam pashyati Arjuna sukham va yadi va dukham sayogi paramo mataha. He is a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true equality of all beings, both in their happiness and distress, O Arjuna. Arjuna uvacha yoyam yogas tvaya proktaha samyena madhusudana etasyaham na pashyami chanchalatvat stitam shtiram. Arjuna said, O Madhusudana, the system of yoga which you have summarized appears impractical and unendurable to me, for the mind is restless and unsteady. Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramati balavadridham tasyaham nigraham manye vayor eva suduskaram. For the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong, O Krishna, and to subdue it is, it seems to me, more difficult than controlling the wind. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Asamshayam Mahabaho Manodur Nigraham Chalam Abhyasena Tukunteya Vairagena Chagriyate. The Blessed Lord said, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by constant practice and by detachment. Asamyatatmana yogo dushprapa iti me mati vashyatmana tuyatata shakyo vaptum upayatah. For one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work. But he whose mind is controlled and who strives by right means is assured of success. That is my opinion. Arjuna uvacha ayati shraddhayo peto yogakchalita manasaha aprapya yoga samsiddhim kam gati Krishna gacchati. Arjuna said, what is the destination of the man of faith who does not persevere, who in the beginning takes to the process of self-realization, but who later desists due to worldly mindedness, and thus does not attain perfection in mysticism? Okay, and we'll go back to text 27. The yogi whose mind is fixed on me verily attains the highest happiness by virtue of his identity with Brahman. He is liberated, his mind is peaceful, his passions are quieted, and he is freed from sin. Excuse me. Sorry. Purport: Brahmabhuta is the state of being free from material contamination and situated in the transcendental service of the Lord. Mad Bhaktim Labhateparam, Bhagavad Gita 1854. One cannot remain in the quality of Brahman, the Absolute, until one's mind is fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord. Sava mana Krishna padara vindayo. To be always engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, or to remain in Krishna consciousness, is to be factually liberated from the mode of passion and all material contamination. Steady in the self, being freed from all material contamination, the yogi achieves the highest perfectional stage of happiness, in touch with the supreme consciousness. Purport: self-realization means knowing one's constitutional position in relationship to the Supreme. The individual soul is part and parcel of the Supreme, and his position is to render transcendental service to the Lord. This transcendental contact with the Supreme is called Brahma Samsparsha. Is there a mic over there with you guys? The next one. A true yogi observes me in all beings and also sees every being in me. Indeed, the self-realized man sees me everywhere. Does someone want to read the purport?
A Krishna-conscious yogi is the perfect seer because he sees Krishna, the Supreme, situated in everyone's heart as Supersoul, Paramatma. Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Hrideshe Arjuna Tishtati. The Lord in his Paramatma feature is situated within both the heart of the dog and that of a Brahmana. The perfect yogi knows that the Lord is eternally transcendental and is not materially affected by his presence in either a dog or a Brahmana. That is the supreme neutrality of the Lord. The individual soul is also situated in the individual heart, but he is not present in all hearts. That is the distinction between the individual soul and the supersoul. One who is not factually in the practice of yoga cannot see so clearly. A Krishna-conscious person can see Krishna in the heart of both the believer and non-believer. In the Smriti, this is confirmed as follows: Atata twach chamart Trivad Atma hi Paramo Harihi. The Lord, being the source of all beings, is like the mother and the maintainer. As the mother is neutral to all different kinds of children, the Supreme Father, or Mother, is also. Consequently, the Supersoul is always in every living being. Outwardly, also, every living being is situated in the energy of the Lord. As will be explained in the 7th chapter, the Lord has, primarily, two energies, the spiritual, or superior, and the material, or inferior. The living entity, although part of the superior energy, is conditioned by the inferior energy. The living entity is always in the Lord's energy. Every living entity is situated in him in one way or another. The yogi sees equally because he sees that all living entities, although in different situations according to the results of fruitive work, in all circumstances remain the servants of God. While in the material energy, the living entity serves the material senses and while in spiritual energy, he serves the Supreme Lord directly. In either case, the living entity is the servant of God. This vision of equality is perfect in a person in Krishna consciousness.
So Krishna is the supreme soul, and he has two energies: the spiritual or superior energy and the material inferior energy. So the living entity is described in the purport as part of the superior energy. And in other places, it's described as he's Krishna's marginal energy. So he's the same substance as Krishna. They're both made of spirit. Krishna's body and him himself are one. He's the supreme spirit, so his body is made of Satchit Ananda, eternity, knowledge, and bliss. And all of his parts and parcels, all of the individual living entities, are also made of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. They're also made of Brahman, or spirit. Mamaivam Sho Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. Krishna, he's the maintainer of these unlimited, infinitesimal living entities. So they never become infinite. It's not that because they're part and parcel of him, you can just combine all the living entities and then you'll have one God. But they remain infinitesimal and he remains infinite. And even if you add up everyone in all the universes, you won't piece them together and get God. We're simultaneously one with and different from him. It explains in the Ishopanishad in the first mantra, Om Purnam Purnaf Purnamidam Purnasya Purnamadaya I mix it up. Om Purnam Purnaf Om Purnam Purnat Purnamidam Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purna Eva Vashishyate. Well, the word that's being used a lot is that whole, Purnam. He's whole, he's complete. He's the supreme. It's very shameful. I should be very shameful. It's a very shameful position that I'm in by not memorizing verses. I should actually know the verses that are in the books. Prabhupada used his whole life to make these books. And Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is speaking these books for the benefit of all the living entities. And he makes it so simple. He's the Supreme He doesn't have to come to the material world. It's not a nice place. There's birth, death, disease, and old age. It's a place of misery from the top to the bottom. It's not a nice place, but out of his supreme compassion and kindness on the living entities, out of his causeless mercy, he agrees to come here just to help the living entities come back. And then he speaks Bhagavad Gita. So it's a very shameful position that we're in if we were studying Bhagavad Gita and hearing Bhagavad Gita and we still don't know any of the verses. So I'm telling myself that. But Krishna, he's whole. And although unlimited other full, whole creations are coming from him, he still remains the complete. So it's not that you can add up all the living entities. He's simultaneously one with and different from them. Achintya Beta Beta Tattva. But these living entities who are coming from him, they're his marginal potency. So they have the potential to be in his internal energy, the spiritual energy, or covered by his inferior energy, the material energy. Because they're infinitesimal, they're tiny. They're not great like him, so they have the potential to fall down. Krishna is achyuta, infallible. He doesn't fall. He never loses his position. He's always God. It's not that he was God after a certain time, or he did a yoga process and became God, or paid $30 and became God. But even as a baby, he was God. He's always God. So that position is already taken, and we didn't get it. But the living entities, they're eternally the servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the yogi or the devotee, someone with transcendental knowledge, he's seeing that all living entities are equal on this platform of being eternally a part and parcel of the Lord. They're spiritually one. They're spiritually the same substance. as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they're different quantity. They're one in quality, but different in quantity, all the living entities. So he sees them all like this. Samadarshinaha, the learned, the transcendentalist, he's seeing all living entities, the dog, the learned man, the elephant, the tree, the dog eater. He's seeing them all as equal because he's seeing from the platform of the soul that actually, no matter what kind of body is covering these living entities, they're all actually part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. They're servants of Krishna. So on that platform, he sees everything equally, but he doesn't have this idea that on the material platform, everything is equal and the same. Because we see on the material platform, everything is, where is there equality on the material platform? One person's born somewhat with a defective body. One person's born short, tall, black, white, skinny, fat, man, woman, this country, that country, animal. There's all these differences. So it's not that someone in knowledge is seeing that, okay, on the material platform, everyone's equal. So then that doesn't actually work. It's a misconception, because then how can they function? Every person in the material world, depending on their qualities, their nature, their qualities and their activities, they've got a certain type of duty to perform in the world. So if the learned person is seeing that actually everyone is just the same, materially speaking, then the functioning of civilized life goes out the window. It's all just it's like animal life. They can all run around, and that one eats that one, and there's no duties to perform. But someone who's actually learned, he sees, okay, someone needs some help in that area, someone's stronger in that area, and like this they can work together and work it out. So Krishna says, Chaturvarnyam maya shrishtam guna karma vibhagishaha, that in this universe, these 4 divisions are made by me all over the universe. There's the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. And in this way, things can properly function. It's a civilized life. That at the head of society, there's someone who knows things properly, a Brahmana. He's actually seeing God. He knows God. He knows what is Brahman. And then under him, there's the Kshatriyas, or the administrators. And so they're taking guidance from the Brahmanas and looking up to them. And then they're ruling the people underneath them and protecting them. Shat means hurt, and Trayate means they protect from that. So the Kshatriya is protecting. And then under them, there's the Vaishyas. They're doing their mercantile business, protecting the cows, working the fields, getting the grains, milk, food products. And then those who don't have any of those qualities, those who aren't able to take the training for any of those other positions, because it's not that one is just born in a family and they say, my family is Brahmana, now I am a Brahmana, but I work at Chipotle. That doesn't make sense, because a Brahmana, he doesn't accept service, or he doesn't accept the work under somebody. Like I said, they're the head of the society. And the reason they don't do that is because they have to speak the truth. So if someone's paying them a salary, and as soon as they tell him, hey, you're not your body, you're attached, this and that, then they don't get the salary anymore. So they wouldn't be able to speak the absolute truth. So the Brahmana, they never accept that kind of employment. But anybody can become any of these positions if they agree to take the training, and if they're able to be trained in that way. And so those who can't be trained in any of those ways, then they just assist those 3 other classes, and that's called Shudra. So like this, Krishna says the system is created by him, and this is how society functions in civilized society. And the point is often made by Srila Prabhupada that therefore society is in a chaotic condition for want of a head. There's a big belly, a lot of merchants in mercantile business, money making, and there's big legs, those who are not qualified for any of those other positions, just working, I've got a boss at a job with a wage, these kind of things. But there's no arms and there's no head. You just got this strange big belly, big leg body running everywhere. So, and we see, you might think, well, there are arms, there's some leaders and things, but a Kshatriya, it's not like what we see today, where, well, it's not exactly the part to describe all of this, so I'll wrap it up. But Krishna describes later in the qualities of these different classes. So like the Kshatriya, one of his qualities is courage in battle. So when there's a war, this king, or soon-to-be king, he puts himself right at the front. He's charging first, not that he's just at a desk and he's like gonna die any moment, like hits the button and then like that. So we see the Kshatriyas were strong, courageous, all of these things, not like the presidents we see today where they're like very old, fighting to stay in office for year after year after year and like taking, it's a whole thing. So the society today, it's Vaishyas and the Shudras, but there needs to be a head of society. So that's what this Krishna consciousness movement is doing, is it's training up brahmanas. So at the Rupanuga Vedic College, we're here to be trained as brahmanas and train up other brahmanas, because the point is also made from Srila Prabhupada that a brahmana, he doesn't want to just be a brahmana himself. He doesn't just, I have knowledge and I keep it to myself. But a brahmana, his whole purpose is to make other brahmanas. So that's what we're doing, and by somebody becoming conversant in all of this essential knowledge that's being spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Bhagavad Gita, then they can make other brahmanas, they can properly lead society. But for want of this knowledge, we see there's no peace in society, because it's all based on the misconception that I am this body, aham mameti. I'm the body, and everything in relation to the body is mine. Therefore, I might put in some effort to help my family, or I might put in some effort to help my group, but at the same time, I'll work at the cost of the other families and the other groups. It doesn't matter. Like Maharaj was making that point with this, it's so insane, it's so crazy. I remember hearing about this in school, and it just like blows your mind, and you look around to see like, is anyone like falling out of their desk? Because this is crazy, and everyone's just like, it's okay, it's all good. But I remember hearing about this in school, how big industries and businesses, they'll just take all of their waste products and just dump it into a river. Not once or twice, but daily. They build their power plant or factory next to the river and just keep dumping garbage into it, with the idea that, well, it's not going to harm me. I only live like about 80 years at most, so I'll let the next guy deal with it, and that way I don't have to lose money. So because of this aham mameti, I am this body, everything in this body, everything related with the body is mine, then there's no peace in society, because there's a misconception from the very beginning, and people are operating on this selfish platform simply for sense gratification. I'm the body, I'll satisfy my senses or my family senses or my this senses. But no one's trying to satisfy the senses of Krishna. So this is all being explained here, how we can actually see things from the proper platform. The true yogi, he is seeing that actually, I'm not my body, I'm a servant of Krishna, I'm an eternal spiritual being, and all other living entities are also eternal spiritual beings, meant for the enjoyment of Krishna. So let me engage in his service and engage others in his service. And on that platform, everybody can actually work together, and society can become peaceful and productive, progress towards the goal of life, rather than the exact opposite, where the society progresses toward animal life due to uncontrolled senses. Because human life, it's meant for responsibility, but We see if everyone's taught, you're your body, enjoy as much as you can while you can, then that just leads to, it's just unlimited attempts for sense gratification. People become so uncontrolled that they're depressed, anxiety, suicidal, school shootings, killing babies in the womb. Nuclear missiles are like the thing you spend all your money on for your country. It's just a chaotic condition. But if someone becomes a true yogi, or they have transcendental knowledge, like Krishna is saying, then they see that actually there's no need to do all these unnecessary things. Because he says, a true yogi observes me in all beings and also sees every being in me. Indeed, the self-realized man sees me everywhere. So he's not trying to exploit others or exploit the resources of material nature. He sees it as Krishna's energy and tries to engage it in Krishna's service. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. Purport. A person in Krishna consciousness certainly sees Lord Krishna everywhere, and he sees everything in Krishna. Such a person may appear to see all separate manifestations of the material nature, but in each and every instance he is conscious of Krishna, knowing that everything is the manifestation of Krishna's energy. Nothing can exist without Krishna, and Krishna is the Lord of everything. This is the basic principle of Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is the development of love of Krishna, a position transcendental even to material liberation. It is the stage beyond self-realization at which the devotee becomes one with Krishna in the sense that Krishna becomes everything for the devotee, and the devotee becomes full in loving Krishna. An intimate relationship between the Lord and the devotee then exists. In that stage, the living entity attains his immortality. Nor is the personality of Godhead ever out of the sight of the devotee. To merge in Krishna is spiritual annihilation. A devotee takes no such risk. It is stated in the Brahma Samhita, Premanjana charita bhakti vilochanena santa sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti yam shama sundaram achintya gunasvarupam govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. I worship the primeval Lord Govinda, who is always seen by the devotee whose eyes are anointed with the pulp of love. He is seen in his eternal form of Shamasundara, situated within the heart of the devotee. So that's the qualification to see God, is the devotee's eyes, they're not looking through a microscope, and they're not looking through a telescope, or at they're not looking through some sort of intoxication or any of these things, but their eyes are anointed with the pulp of love of God. So that's the qualification. Krishna, he agrees to reveal himself to the devotee who engages in his service. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhiyogam tam yenamam upayantate. As they worship me with love and devotion, I reveal the path by which they can come to me. So Krishna is understood by his devotees engaging in his service. He will always remain hidden to those who are just trying to understand him through the empiric method or through these limited senses. He's a person, and he's the supreme person. He's higher than everybody, above everybody, absolutely all the time. So he's only going to be revealed by agreeing to surrender to him. It's not that any amount of manipulating material nature or manipulating our material mind is going to reveal the Supreme Personality of Godhead to us. Atav Shri Krishna namadi nabhaved grayam indriyai sevan mukhe hi jivado swayam evasparatyada. To the materially contaminated senses, the pastimes, name, form, qualities of Krishna are never understood. They're imperceivable. But one who engages in his service, which begins with the tongue, then Krishna, his transcendental name, fame, form, pastimes, qualities are revealed. So someone has to engage in his service, And that begins with the tongue. So chanting Hare Krishna, taking prasadam, engaging in Krishna Katha. Like this one is surrendering to the Lord. They're engaging in their senses, which are made by the Lord, in His service. But still many people demand that, well, how can I understand God through this philosophy, that philosophy, bending my mind this way and that way? But they'll always miss Him because He's not subject to their analytical study. He reveals Himself to who He wants to reveal Himself to. He's a person. And He gives the process for actually finding Him in His instructions. So if one becomes fortunate by coming in contact with devotees, then they can begin to understand the supreme cause of all causes by associating with devotees and hearing from them. Shri Shri Gauranitai Ki Jai. Well, we hear there's so many other theories that I can flex my mind this way and that way and guess. I can come up with a theory. Maybe there was a Big Bang. So maybe the supreme cause of all causes is nothing. It's not that all scientists are like bad or are cheaters or something, because we hear all these statements about scientists. So it's not that all scientists are rascals, but of course there's some scientists who understand that, yeah, there is God, there is some higher power, and they're doing, researching different things. But the problem is when one who's doing all that, what they're doing is good. They're trying to find the cause. That's what the human life is meant for, inquiring into the absolute truth. What is the cause of everything? What is my nature? What's the nature of this world? Where is it coming from? So that's perfect and commendable. But the problem is when one attempts to do that, comes up short, and then just says, okay, I know the conclusion anyways. It's cheating. You don't actually find the conclusion so making a conclusion and a claim beyond what you can actually perceive, that's cheating. So for instance, okay, we can see there's this world, there's this planet, we can see it must be in space, we can see there's other planets around it, and we write it down in the textbook, we're on a planet, it's in space, there's other planets around it, there's different principles keeping the planets moving in an orbit, and they all came from absolutely nothing, and there was an explosion. That's where it goes wrong, because you're not finding the cause, you can't understand it, and then you bluff, you make it's cheating, it's propaganda. You make some idea that's just your idea. There was nothing, and nothing turned into everything, and I'll make a whole IMAX movie about it and explain it like this and that. It's called propaganda. Just like there's this saying of this, I forget what the Bengali name for it is, but Prabhupada shares this story where one guy, I think it sounds like he said his name was Bhagavan, but I don't know if that's a common name. I couldn't really hear it. But I think his name was Bhagavan, and his friends all got together and said, we're going to convince Bhagavan that he's a ghost. So he went to one friend, and the friend said, oh, a ghost! Oh. And when Prabhupada did that, the devotees were laughing, and he said, what do you mean? Like, it's me, and what? He said, oh, a ghost! And so he went away, and he thought, man, my friend's crazy, what in the world? And so he went and spoke to his other friend. He's like, gonna go tell him about how the one person's acting crazy. When he gets to that friend, he's like, oh, ghost. Like, scared. This thing, what in the world? And so then he goes to the third friend, and it's the same thing. Oh, it's a ghost, and afraid again. So they convinced Bhagavan that he thought, maybe I've become a ghost. So it's propaganda. By convincing many people of something, then it seems, okay, maybe this is the way it is. But if we actually look at it, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. There is nothing. What is nothing? They show it on the screen. I remember I was thinking about it in college because that's what they say. And I remember I I thought it was like profound. I was like, wow, this is so profound, because when I try to think of the beginning of the universe, I try to think of nothing. I'm just drawing a blank. Wow, this is amazing. That's just stupid. So this is the problem, is when they try to jump over. There's I don't have knowledge of something, and then I just claim this is the conclusion. So everything came from nothing, and there's an explosion. We say it so much in class. I talk about it a lot, so I don't probably need to go into the whole thing. But there's so many theories, and there's so many misleading ideas, and the problem is when these misleading ideas are propagated as truth, and then everyone is confused. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was instructed by his spiritual master to preach the absolute truth, keeping aside all other things. And that's what he did all the time. And so everything that we're hearing from the Acharyas and from Srila Prabhupada in these purports and from Krishna and Arjuna, it's all the absolute truth. They're being presented to us. Even though, like we were hearing in Lilamrita this morning, some things it might sound like, oh, that's just some, it's just some cultural thing. I'm just hearing something about Indian culture and this and that. But as we heard in the purport, such a person may appear to see all separate manifestations of the material nature, but in each and every instance he is conscious of Krishna, knowing that everything is the manifestation of Krishna's energy. So the pure devotee, he's always seeing Krishna in every facet of life, and he's showing how we can do that also in our extremely fallen condition of Kali Yuga. Like we were hearing earlier, that Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults. But Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama Eva Kevalam. Kalo Nasteva, Nasteva, Nasteva Gatiranyata. That in this age, that's not the verse that says in this age the only good thing is chanting, but in this age, there's no other way, there's no other way, there's no other way than chanting the holy name of the Lord. So if we engage in chanting the absolute truth, and chanting Krishna's name, his glories, his pastimes, and in hearing from the pure sound vibration from the pure representative of the Lord, which is it's a sound vibration coming from the spiritual platform, from the spiritual world, then we can begin to grasp what is the absolute truth. While anyone who's trying to do some mental gymnastics or empiric experiment or mundane social experiments, all of these things will fall short of understanding what is the absolute truth. It's only if we become fortunate to hear from the pure devotee who's always situated in the absolute truth. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. We have to hear from that person. And then we can actually understand things properly, and we can understand the goal of life, and engage in our natural function, which is unmotivated and uninterrupted service to Krishna. At this stage, this is the rest of the purport. At this stage, Lord Krishna never disappears from the sight of the devotee, nor does the devotee ever lose sight of the Lord. In the case of a yogi who sees the Lord as Paramatma within the heart, the same applies. Such a yogi turns into a pure devotee and cannot bear to live for a moment without seeing the Lord within himself. Is there any questions or comments? Yes, Jagannath Prabhu?
Thank you. It was a nice class today.
Hare Krishna.
I was just wondering, you were just speaking about how we should hear from someone who sees Krishna everywhere and everything in Krishna. But like, should we ask other devotees about philosophy or about questions bothering us or about doubts? Because
they might not see Krishna
yeah,
everywhere.
yeah.
Well, the thing is that if they're following such a person, then they're good association. So we want to be surrounded by those people. Anyone who's following so Srila Prabhupada is following Krishna. All the our Sampradaya, we see here. Um, I just heard the definition of Sampradaya recently. It was really interesting. I'm forgetting, but our Sampradaya, they're all following Krishna. Srila Prabhupada's following Krishna, and so anybody who's following Srila Prabhupada, we want to hear. So, and Srila Prabhupada's representatives following him, and so those who are being instructed and serving the representatives of Srila Prabhupada, we want to hear from them. Like we have different authorities that are working under the spiritual master, so we want to reveal our mind, speak with them, be the devotee. He makes friends with devotees, at least on the platform that we want to get to and be and stay on. Or of course we want to get to the highest platform, but it's really important that we get to the second class platform, because such a person can make more devotees through preaching. So that person, the Madhyama Adhikari, he makes friends with the devotees, and the way he does that is in the nectar of instruction, the different loving exchanges, feeling the mind and inquiring submissively and like that. Those ones are the most important. But then there's also giving prasadam, accepting prasadam and gifts. Yes, Magadari, Prabhu. Oh, yeah. I hear his speaker.
I know where it started. People are definitely looking for this knowledge. How is Howard distributing so many millions of books? We go somewhere, and the most unlikely people, they look at these books and say, "Yeah, I'll buy it. I'll give you $60. I'll give you this. I'll give you." So, although they're starving from transcendental knowledge and they have nothing, no way to find it, but the devotees are so kind that they go out door to door, house to house, everywhere. They leave no stone unturned, and they find the people, and they give them a chance to take these books. And even if they see the book, even if they touch it, they make spiritual advancement. And what to speak of if they buy it, they give their hard-earned money, they take it home, put it on their shelf, they let their children read it. It's wonderful. Hare Krishna.
Jai! Thank you, Maharaj. So there's nothing more ecstatic than the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya. And by engaging in it, we can get the highest thing and also share the highest thing with others. So people, like Maharaj was saying, people are looking for this knowledge. There's many people who are just looking out their window every day, waiting for the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya to come by, chanting down the street, and they're wondering, when am I going to get? I know there's some purpose to life. When am I actually going to understand it and be engaged in it? So we see so many people are taking the books, and like Maharaj says, not just one or two, but they're giving $60 or even $300, take the whole Bhagavatam set, or some people give few thousands and take many books to share with others. Or even some people are so encouraged by seeing the devotees that they say, they offer their home. They say, I want the devotees to come stay at my home and then do some book distribution around there.
I have the
in
question.
their home. They stay there. They happily cook for the devotees and provide a whole nice atmosphere so people can use their home as the base to go out and share many books from. Oh, yes,
I
Maharaj.
have a question.
We're not set up just yet. And then we just have to mute this iPhone.
I have a question. I'd like to direct it towards Bhakti Joseph, and I'd like to have him tell me what he thinks about book distribution.
It's unmuted? Okay. Please.
Hare Krishna. In my few trips out on book distribution, I've noticed the potency that it can carry, and yeah, I definitely made some observations into how willing people are to accept the literature, to take the books, to talk to us, to see what we're doing, walking around as we are, and yeah, there's definitely been a desire coming out from them to understand what it is that we're trying to preach and share with them, and that's been a really wonderful thing. It's energized me in ways that I haven't really felt before. So it's been a really great experience, and yeah, very potent, very powerful. Something I would like to continue doing. So, Hare Krishna.
Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Taking over the world with Srila Prabhupada's books Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Vanchika.